Hello and welcome to the main message for February 21st. This launches us into the book of Revelation, and it's a series which will take us through almost to Easter. There will be a need, perhaps, in many of us to follow up some of the background, and for that purpose, we have the supplement to the main message, a video which will be available each week. And that'll be a short look at some more of the biblical information in the background of the message as I share it. I hope you're well, and I hope you're ready to read the book of Revelation. If it scared you in the past, stop being scared of it. If it's confused you in the past, it's actually not that confusing. The best trick is to park all the outlandish and weird kinds of interpretation you may have heard. It's actually very down to earth in a sense, and relatively straightforward. Anyway, every so often there's a seismic shift in the way that we see the universe in which we live. So, say 500-600 years ago, people like Copernicus, Galileo in particular, punched the numbers and basically had to say, guys, I know we've always said that the sun rises in the morning and it travels across the sky and then it sets in the evening, but actually it doesn't. Actually, what the numbers show is something different is going on that just gives us that impression. And what's different is that in actual fact, the sun is the centre of what we would now call the solar system. The Earth, one of the planets of the solar system, along with the other planets, rotate around the sun. And although you see the sun as something small every day, it in fact is vastly, many times bigger than the planet Earth. And the impressions that you have result from a spinning Earth travelling round in almost a circle, a vastly bigger sun that's just a very, very long way away. Well, this broke open the whole picture of the universe for everybody, pretty much. Up till then, heaven was up there, we were down here. Earth's surface was pretty much the big bit. There was up, there was down, and it was simple. Heaven up there, earth down here. Well, we've known for over 500 years then that in fact the sun doesn't rise in the morning or set in the evening, but it's still convenient to talk about that. If I say, well, the sun was overhead, you know what I mean. Any of us thinking about it long enough would go, yeah, okay, it's true, the sun wasn't overhead, it's just the way the earth had reached on its spin. But it'll do. And similarly, we talk about heaven up there and earth down here, still as if that's how it really was. But we're really speaking in a kind of symbolic way now. Although for many, many generations, they did think heaven up there, earth down here, in a what we would now think as a fairly straightforward and simplistic way. So we still employ those things. Well, somewhat over 100 years ago, a man called Einstein came along and basically said, well, we've punched a lot more numbers since Copernicus and Galileo. And here's what we now know. It's not just that the universe isn't quite how you think of it by your everyday experience of the sun going overhead and so on. Actually, none of our everyday experience is telling us how the universe actually is. That the physics of the universe are completely different to how we've understood it. Speed is not what you think it is. Distance is not what you think it is. Time is not what you think it is. Space is not what you think it is. But your everyday experience is continuing to be valid. In other words, you'll still use your everyday learning that you developed from when you were a baby, using your senses to experience the world and make sense of it. Those misunderstandings will still help you catch the right bus at the right time, still help you peel the carrots or catch a fish. Those in practical everyday ways are fine. It's just that the reality of the universe can't be learnt by those methods. The reality of the universe requires a massive rethink. So we have these moments in history where we have to have massive rethinks. The book of Revelation invites us to a massive rethink. And it's very, very similar, inasmuch as the first 3 chapters are largely taken up with God telling the Christians of 2,000 years ago, I know what you are experiencing every day. I understand the pressures you are under. I get how difficult it is to be a follower of Jesus in the Roman Empire. I know that you are often, some of you, being persecuted, even to the point of death. I know that you've been given misleading information. I know that there is unfair trade, abuses of power, awful politics, greedy ambition, all kinds of things are amiss, and you are trying to work out your Christian faith in such a place. First part of my message to you is, I get it. I know your everyday experience. You're doing really well in some respects, not so well in some others, but don't forget what I've promised you. Don't forget what I've given you in Christ. So as you try and work out daily life as an ordinary everyday Christian in an ordinary everyday world, don't forget that you're also part of a very different kind of universe, or a very different, bigger than the universe picture. So in chapter 4, which is where we're jumping in to our looking at the book of Revelation, John uses this method of visionary experience to talk to us. He says, come with me. He says, I had this vision. A door is standing open and the Spirit of God lifts me up and I'm through the door and I'm into the very throne room of God. In the center of this space that I can't describe, there is a figure on a throne. I don't describe the figure, just the sketchiest information on the figure. The throne, I don't talk about the throne either, but there's thunder all around it and lightning flashes from it, and it's surrounded by an emerald rainbow. And by the way, guys, you know the emerald rainbow, of course, is a symbol of promise. Rainbow is promise in the Bible. And around that, there is a sea of crystal. Well, we haven't got time today to go into all that. It will reappear in the book of Revelation. It's that which separates us, separates the whole living creation from God in the current circumstance. And then moving over this scene and around it, surrounding the throne, because the throne is central to absolutely everything else that ever exists, anytime, any place, whatever it be. The throne is the center, the throne of grace, the throne of God, the throne of glory. Where God's sovereignty is, there is the center, not just of the universe, but all that can be. And around this throne, there are 4 creatures. Number 4, you may know, is a number of completion. The 4 creatures are similar in as much as they each have 6 wings, because they move in all dimensions that are possible. They each are covered with eyes, because they can see in all dimensions that are possible. And they are there interacting with the throne of God in worship. We may come to that in another presentation. There isn't time now. And these creatures are each different also. One has the resemblance to a lion. A lion is the principal, the representative, the leader, if you like, the ruler, if you want, but the representative before God of all the wild creatures. The next one resembles an ox. The ox is the principal and representative of all the domestic creatures. The next one has a human-like appearance, because the human is the representative principle of God's image. And then the 4th is like an eagle, because the eagle is the principle and representative of all the creatures that fly. And taken together, the 4 living creatures represent everything that has the breath of life within it. and indeed represents the entire living creation in a dynamic relationship of worship, of dependence upon, of interaction with the centre of all things that are, which is the throne of God. Also round the throne we'll see the 24 other thrones, because God shares his glory, his power with others. These are leaders of the people of faith in Old and New Testaments. We don't have time to look at them. We'll take them up at another point. And the vision will go on to other things. We'll see that the vast multitudes beyond. But for now, here's the point. Absolutely everything moves around the center point. Just like the solar system, Mars, visited now 38.5 million miles away, we still managed to send a thing the size of a car there. I'm quite impressed with that. But reminding us that the universe is a little bit different to what we experience every day. So all the planets, just as all the planets, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, so on, all moving round the sun. So absolutely everything that ever exists moves around the sovereignty of God, the throne in the center of it all. And what the message is God is saying, look guys, I know what it's like in an everyday life as a follower of Jesus. You are really up against it. You are so discouraged at times. I understand that, and I see why. You make some mistakes, and we're going to talk about those mistakes. But you get some things right, and we're going to talk and celebrate the things you get right. But never ever forget that you're part of this bigger picture that I've brought you into through Christ, crucified and risen. And then in chapter 4, the message unfolds, say, look, you are part of this everyday world that is in such a mess and seems bent on self-destruction and injustice. But actually, absolutely everything is part of a bigger picture still, much bigger. Bigger than the universe itself, bigger than time and space, bigger than everything you could possibly imagine. And the center of absolutely everything that absolutely is anytime, anywhere, anyhow, is the sovereignty of God. And there is the throne of grace. And there is the purpose of love, as we'll see in the next part of the same scene, chapter 5, that there's a history of the breaking out of love into this lost world, the coming of Christ to bring us the throne of heaven into ordinary everyday living. But for now, let it rest that the book of Revelation calls us into this vision to remember. I am dealing with everyday, ordinary, 24-hour stuff, the junk of coronavirus epidemics, of unfair systems in the world that I'm part of, that I'm subject to, that other people suffer worse. I'm part of a humanity that's trying to destroy itself. I'm part of this, but I'm following Jesus. And in so doing, I am joined to Christ, and I am part of something so much more profound, more powerful, more enduring. God will not let his purpose for his creation go. It will not be thwarted, though all the powers of hell, so to speak, are ranked against it. Book of Revelation, very dramatic. It's full of symbols that are constantly changing and flowing. It's not so easy to read. Don't think that you can sort of start at the beginning, read to the end and go, well, I didn't get a thing out of that. I don't know what that was. You need to treat it like a kind of music you've never heard before. So you need to listen to it a bit until you go, I get how this works. I can move with this. Yeah, I see. Okay, at first it just sounded weird, but now I see it. Or a jigsaw puzzle of 5,000 pieces scattered across a tabletop, and you look at it and go, well, what on earth is all that? But as you work at it, as you go back to bits, as you look again, as you treat it dynamically, you find your way. And actually, John, whose letter to the church it is, tells us how to interpret it. But I'll talk about that in the supplement. God bless you and keep you safe this week. Stay safe and keep others safe, and be encouraged to know that everything in life, the universe and beyond, is centered on the throne of God's grace.